I got these two exes going, I want this, let's do, what are we doing, what are we doing? And I'm like, I don't know. So they're nagging me, which is great because I just got two ex-wives who are total nags, now nagging still.
Meri's lack of access to family funds has always been a bit of a mystery, but I think there's more to it than just family drama. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture, shall we? Remember the scene when Meri casually dropped, "I made the payments," during the porch conversation with Jen about Leon's car? Well, that should tell you something. The whole hand-me-downs for cars thing is something the family's been pretty vocal about, and even Leon wasn't exempt. His first car? Robin's old one. And if you remember back to season 6, there's that scene where Leon absolutely loses it because they didn't want to drive the ugly car. Yeah, that car. So it's safe to assume Meri decided to step in and buy Leon something nicer. Not the family's fault, right? Well, that seems to be the pattern. Then there's Leon's schooling. We all know the family didn't have the kind of money to send Leon to a super expensive school. They had to hustle for scholarships and loans to make it work. But what does Meri do? She offered to cover the costs herself, which, honestly, is fair. Leon's school was way more expensive than the other kids' options. And if Maddie and Hunter got their school paid for in other ways, why wouldn't Meri step up for Leon? Again, is that really the family's fault? Now, about the family fund, Meri should have had access to it, especially considering she was contributing. And here's a thought, how much did Robin actually contribute to the fund? Because let's be real, her kids got everything handed to them. If the other kids were getting, say, $7,000 a year for college, then Leon should have been entitled to the same amount. Meri could have easily covered the difference with Kody. After all, those kids belong to both of them, don't they? There's also the matter of how much money Meri was making, especially early on. She had a solid stream of income at one point, so it makes sense why Kody and Robin kept her around. They were benefiting from her contributions to the family fund, especially for Robin's fancy new McMansion. Look, I get it. Meri's frustration isn't just about wanting access to the family fund for her kid. It's about the fact that she was contributing to the well-being of the entire Brown family. Not just Leon's. She put in for everyone, but somehow, she's the one who gets painted as the bad guy. People only seem to focus on the wet bar or the fact that she got the same size house as the others. But what about all the ways she pitched in? And here's the kicker. Robin, as far as we know, never really contributed anything. She's been more of a taker than a giver, in my opinion. So, just my take. Meri's hurt runs deep because she's been doing the heavy lifting for the whole family. Yet somehow, she's the one left out in the cold when it comes to reaping the rewards. We've got so much to dive into today, so let's not waste any time. Let's jump straight into it. Hey everyone, what's up? It's Elena here, and welcome back to my channel Reality Nexus X. Who else is just counting down the days for this show to end, purely to get all the juicy behind-the-scenes gossip? Look, I'm not saying I want it to get canceled, but there's a teeny, tiny part of me that hopes it does. Because, let's be real, once the cameras stop rolling, I have a feeling we might actually hear the real truth from the Browns. Anyone else feeling that vibe? Honestly, I can't take another second of Kody or Robin. The fact that these two are still cashing in after the wreckage they've caused. Honestly, it's enough to make my stomach turn. What's the saddest moment in the show? Oh, where do I even start? For me, it's got to be that gut-wrenching moment in Season 17, Episode 13, when Gabe casually mentions that his dad called him on his birthday, not to wish him well, of course, but to ask about coronavirus. And then, the real kicker, he forgets it's Gabe's birthday. And Gabe, with all the emotion of a man who's been through far too much, says, "It was a lot worse than just a phone call for me." My heart shattered. I've been in that exact spot. It's like, wow, thanks for the thoughtful gesture, Dad. Also, hate Kotex. Then there's one of Garrison's last moments on screen, possibly his last, where he chokes out something about always being open to reconciliation, and you can practically see the tears building up in his eyes. Break my heart, why don't you? And let's not forget the moment Isabel loses it after Kody casually suggests she go to her surgery all alone. She's panicking, asking her mom, "Will you send me alone?" And Christine, being the sane, loving mother, absolutely refuses. You can see how devastated Isabel is, and it's just brutally heartbreaking. And how could I leave out that epic scene where Janelle, Christine, and the kids are sitting around the table at Garrison's house, and he just lays it all out, like a mic drop? You know what, Robin? Have him. We don't care anymore. We're all grown adults who don't need a father figure. You could practically feel the weight of every word. Too bad it probably went right over Kody's empty head. Honestly, I hope that scene haunts that worthless excuse for a man and his lazy wife for the rest of their miserable lives. Oh, where to even begin with Kody's first red flag? So I decided to rewatch the first episode, Send Prayers, and within minutes, boom, there it is, King Dingus himself whining about the family dog. Seriously, he actually had the audacity to complain about a dog. Let me break this down for you. Kody goes on this little tirade, telling us how he grew up on a farm with perfectly obedient dogs that listened and followed orders, and then, in the same breath, gestures to the family dog, calling it trouble. It's so clear, he just doesn't like the dog. This whole scene takes mere seconds, but it's all you need to see that Kody's first real relationship issue was with a dog who had the audacity to not be a robot. It sets the tone for everything that follows, his relationships with his wives and kids, especially when they stopped being mindless, obedient little minions. Spoiler, it only gets worse from there. And seriously, what's not to love about a dog? Who doesn't like a dog? The fact that he's complaining about one on national TV is, well, truly telling. What kind of man does that? Oh right, Kody. Now let's talk about that scene where he's driving around in his flashy sports car, excitedly declaring that he's a repeat offender of marriage. Red flag number 1. It's all about control with this guy. He clearly wanted that obedient, working dog vibe from everyone around him, wives, kids, even the dog, who he probably only interacts with when it's convenient. But nope, he can't even handle a dog not being his personal servant. Honestly, Kody would have been way better off creating a virtual family in The Sims. At least there, he could control every little thing without making anyone feel like they're sacrificing their human dignity. It's honestly disgusting how much he expects people to bend to his will. And when they dared to have human emotions, like jealousy or frustration, cue the guilt trips. It's like he thinks everyone should just vanish into the background of his world, existing only to cater to his whims. It's appalling. Where do I even start with Tony? This guy is the textbook definition of entitlement, and it's honestly mind-boggling. I'm currently watching season 12, and every second with Tony just makes my skin crawl. How does anyone put up with him? His rude comments are constant, and don't even get me started on how he pushes boundaries with his own family. Like, I get that planning a wedding is stressful, but I've done it myself with a limited amount of help from my parents, and even at my worst, I would never treat them the way Tony treats his. He's crossing lines, and I can already tell it's only going to get worse from here. Oh, and those jokes he thinks are funny? Total cringe. The guy makes sexist remarks that, frankly, should stay far, far away from national television. My Keltie might be into it, but if I were her, I'd be telling him to keep those comments for the privacy of their own space, not broadcast them to the world. Then there's the whole wedding drama. He's over here joking around while trying to push Kody, like, cool, but it's obvious he's got his own issues. Oh, and don't forget how it was totally okay for Meri's parents to take out a loan for Kody's wedding. But apparently when it comes to my Keltie's wedding, there's somehow a problem with it. And let's talk about that taco speech. What a disaster. For those who don't know, Mexican street tacos are meant to be small and packed with flavor. They're not supposed to be some giant food challenge. My husband calls them two-biter tacos. The whole thing just feels like a cultural misunderstanding turned into a snarky, tone-deaf speech. Honestly, Kody deserves all the side-eye and snark he gets. You can tell there's some built-up frustration, especially with the Maddie wedding hype. Poor Mykelti probably felt like the invisible bride once again. With a family as huge as theirs, it's bound to happen. Weddings close together and all that. But they seriously needed to show the same level of excitement for Mykelti as they did for Maddie. I mean, it's only fair. M&T even went above and beyond to pay for anything that wasn't covered by the show. Talk about a thankless job. Kody's over here calling himself monogamous, but let's take a second to break this down, shall we? It's laughable, really. The original wives, the OGs, they walked away from plural marriage, one by one. So it's not like Kody chose monogamy, he didn't. Monogamy was thrust upon him when his sister wives had enough and bailed. And let's be real, he didn't leave them for one woman, he was left with one woman. So is he really monogamous, or is he just a failed polygamist who got stuck with Robin? If you ask me, the label failed polygamist fits much better. He didn't exactly make a choice here. Monogamy wasn't some big decision he made. It was just what happened after Christine, Janelle, and Meri got tired of his nonsense and dipped. Meanwhile, Robin's still holding on to the dream of having a sister wife, because of course she is. But hey, Kody's probably going to court other women, right? He'll call it courting, but we all know what that means. Let's not pretend it's anything else. If we're talking about choice, then yeah, he chose monogamy long before any of the wives left. Before Robin even came into the picture, Kody was playing polygamist. But once she arrived, suddenly he was monogamous. Interesting timing, huh? And by the way, he practically pushed the OGs out of the picture. They were just baby mamas to him, people he had a responsibility to. But only until coronavirus hit. And then, voila, we get to see him be a real deadbeat on camera, no hiding it. Christine, Janelle, and Meri all said it. Kody stopped coming over long before the move to Flagstaff. Suddenly, it was all about how the houses were too far apart, and coronavirus made it impossible for him to show up. Right. He's a failed polygamist hands down. He abandoned his wives for Robin, his so-called soulmate, and let her do whatever she wanted while neglecting the other three. He didn't even try to balance his duties. It's almost like he didn't even care about keeping his family together. But he made the choice, didn't he? Just like he chose to cheat on them, he chose to fail at this whole polygamous thing. He failed because he chose to. And let's not forget, he was just waiting for Meri to leave him. He made her life miserable and did the same with the others. It's the same story with every single one of them, pushing them to the brink until they couldn't take it anymore. So let's talk about how Soben must be feeling now that all the sister wives are gone. I mean, Kody and Robin are probably really feeling the heat right now. You know, it's funny because as far as I know, everyone used to work except for Soben, and the rest of the wives were the ones actually saving up for emergencies and the family fund. But now, with Meri, Janelle, and Christine all out of the picture, who's left to pull in a paycheck? Kody, and I bet my left shoe that Soben's finally realizing that things aren't as great as they used to be. Let's be real, there was probably more money when everyone was contributing, but now it's down to just two, if you even count Kody. And I'm willing to bet that Soben's starting to see how not greener the grass is on the monogamous side. She was basically the holiday home for Kody before. Now, she's the only home. Talk about a downgrade, huh? Oh, and don't even get me started on how she's running that house now. Like, I seriously doubt Kody loves being the one to take Saul and Eri to school. But you know who makes him do it? Soben. He's been spotted running errands, grocery shopping, playing Mr. Mom. Meanwhile, he can't just say, Hey, I need to head to insert wife's name here house. Nope, not anymore. He's trapped, and Sobin's watching his every move. And here's the kicker. If Kody dares to tell her she needs to cut back on spending, guess who's going to blame him for her loss of income? Yup, it's his job to make up the difference. She's got total control. She calls the shots, especially when it comes to how Kody interacts with her kids. It's like she made sure to rewrite the rules of parenting. He can't even have the same dad relationship with Saul that he had with the other boys. It's all manipulation, all the time. She plays the victim card and gets what she wants while Kody, the poor guy, just keeps falling for it. And now he's lost everything that actually mattered. Classic. Kody's problems would be solved in an instant if he just, actually called or texted his children, instead of relying on his wives to do the heavy lifting. I mean, it's kind of wild. I come from a divorced family, so I get it's not exactly the same situation, but when Leo and Audrey left Flagstaff for Utah and Kody didn't even know until Meri told him, that's a bit much. Doesn't he have a relationship with Leo? Isn't it normal for a parent to text or call and say, hey, looking forward to seeing you when we can? Apparently not, because that seems like too much effort for Kody. It's the same mess with the whole Ermbu Christmas thing. Kody had no idea that all of Janelle's kids were coming to Flagstaff. Why is he not directly communicating with his children? This is a guy who's supposedly all about family, but he can't pick up the phone to chat with his kids. As a child of divorce who wasn't around my dad every day, the idea that Kody's not even in regular contact with his adult children is just bizarre. Before coronavirus, it seemed like he had a halfway decent relationship with his kids, but now it's like they've become strangers. And sure, managing 18 kids is a lot, but seriously, how hard would it be to shoot them a text or call them to clear up any misunderstandings, especially with Janelle's boys? The truth is, a lot of his issues would be so much easier to resolve if he'd just admit where he messed up. But nope, Kody's in constant denial, pretending he was always fair with his time and resources. His kids remember what really happened, though. He takes zero accountability for anything. If something goes wrong, it's always someone else's fault. Kody needs to get real and own his mistakes. He hasn't been fair, and it's time he finally admits it. Kody has always leaned on his wives to maintain his relationships with the older kids, especially since Robin joined the family. He's clueless when it comes to dealing with the OG 13 kids on his own. Either he doesn't care, or Robin stirs up drama if he does. Honestly, I think Robin's the most jealous one, and Kody's more focused on managing her feelings than actually being a good father. That's why Kody had a meltdown when Christine was called the Pied Piper. It's why he freaked out when Janelle passed along messages from him that he claimed were out of date. And it's also why he had no clue when Leon and Audrey left for Parowan. Kody's always relied on the wives to act as intermediaries with the kids. Once they stopped carrying his emotional load, the whole thing fell apart. If Kody couldn't put in the effort with his first 3 wives, what makes anyone think he'll put in the effort with their kids? He's got his do-over family now, and he's happy with that. Honestly, if Kody were my dad, I'd have zero interest in talking to him at this point. Kody, of course, should do the right thing with the property, but let's be real, he won't. Here's the thing. This guy was married to these women for 30 years, and had multiple kids with them. They all contributed to the family, except for Robin, who somehow magically seems to get a free pass in everything. Sure, there were probably some ups and downs, times when some gave more or took more than others, but in the end, it all kind of balanced out. So what's the absolute least Kody can do here? Sell the property and split the proceeds 4 ways. That's the minimum he could do, and honestly, 3 ways would be fine. But let's not kid ourselves, that's never going to happen. Now, yeah, the end of his marriages to Meri and Janelle weren't exactly sunshine and rainbows. There's some lingering animosity, sure, but that wasn't always the case, and they did contribute to the family for decades. So what's his excuse for not splitting it evenly? Is he really that greedy? Is he so bitter that he can't even take the moral high ground for once? Splitting the money equally, not by some ridiculous acreage breakdown, would make him look somewhat decent, and decent is really pushing it. And hey, it might even improve his relationship with his kids, but who am I kidding? Kody loves to claim the land was for the kids and their inheritance, but if that's true, wouldn't splitting the money evenly actually be better for the kids? He'd be giving the mothers a decent payout, and let's be honest, a chunk of that would probably end up benefiting his children anyway. But here's Kody's issue. He's upset because Janelle chose the kids over him, and don't forget the dogs. But now he's implying she's so selfish, she wants to keep all the money for herself and screw over the kids. The logic here is absolutely wild. Even if Meri and Janelle contributed a little less to the property, and sure, Kody now has Christine's share too, the moral thing to do after 30 years of family history is still to split it evenly. But we all know Kody's not about doing what's right. My guess? He'll do the right thing only if he's dragged into court. And even then, he'll hand over the bare minimum, nothing more. The guy's reputation is hanging by a thread, and if he screws these women over, the show's not going to survive it. He might want to think about that, but then again, the show's probably the only reason he hasn't just ditched them already. And legally, he probably could have kicked them to the curb years ago, which honestly is one of the more sinister things about polygamy. This is the same guy who thinks Janelle would screw him over just for asking for child support. He only supports the people who are still in his good graces, and when it comes to doing the right thing, the law, or even just basic responsibility, nah, that's not his problem. He's trash, and he'll never do right by anyone. Robin, always the master of budgeting. She had a sign on her fridge to make sure her kids didn't eat her out of house and home, because apparently that's how you keep grocery costs in check. Meanwhile, every Friday night, there was the family supper tradition, and don't forget those great birthday celebrations. Sure, they were mostly potluck, but Robin's contribution? A jar of olives. Really reaching deep into the pantry for that one, huh? Maybe that's her secret to saving money, never feeding anyone, not even at a birthday party. But hey, if she was such a pro at saving, why didn't she use some of that magic budgeting skill to pay back the family for the thousands they shelled out to cover her divorce debts? Instead of taking Kody to Hawaii, how about she settled that tab first? Christine didn't hold back, letting that little gem slip out. Apparently, Kody and Robin were always sharing resources, because they're monogamists, whatever that's supposed to mean. And don't you just love the logic here? Kody probably sees the OG3's budget as his own version of child support. That's one way to justify not feeding anyone else and making sure your kids eat at their other mom's houses. But let's get real. There's no way Robin saved up enough from grocery money alone to fund that Hawaii trip. That kind of thing takes years of savings, not a few jars of olives here and there. Anyone who believes that is just, well, let's say, gullible. Let's rewind to that early scene where Logan raided Christine's fridge. The kids were constantly digging through her food, Janelle's kids too. Christine, bless her heart, jumps up and starts offering Logan all kinds of snacks, while Janelle and Kody casually mention that they too often raided Christine's fridge. Janelle even said that if she wanted home-cooked food, Christine was the go-to. And then there's Robin with her little sigh on the fridge, because clearly that was the key to running a well-stocked, efficient household. Watching clips from Season 9 of Sister Wives has me wishing I'd jumped in from the start. Seriously, I can't wait to get to the seasons where they move to Flagstaff and Meri, Janelle, and Christine finally break free from Kody's grip. But for now, let's dive into the whole Janelle-Kody dynamic, especially when it comes to their kids, Logan in particular. It's wild to me how much Janelle, Kody, and the other wives, Meri, Robin, and Christine, for the record, expected Logan to basically run the house. Sure, I get that kids should pitch in with chores based on their age and ability, but Logan seemed to be doing everything. Waking the younger ones up, getting them ready for school, cooking meals, you name it. Meanwhile, Janelle, she'd rather bury herself in work than handle any of the mom duties. And Kody? Well, he was just being Kody. Every time all 4 wives went out, Kody somehow turned into a helpless mess. He'd need Logan to basically step in as the parent because he didn't know how to function without someone else running the show. Logan wasn't just a big brother, he was more like a dad figure to those kids. I mean, one of the younger kids even asked Logan to take her to the father-daughter dance. And oh yeah, Kody was there too, but apparently Logan was the one actually stepping up. Madison helped out too, but it always seemed like the bulk of the responsibility fell on Logan. Looking back, I can't help but wonder if Janelle has any regrets. Does she feel guilty for letting that happen? Does she wish she could have done things differently? Honestly, there's no excuse for why neither Janelle nor Kody could have managed to get their own kids ready in the mornings. People give Janelle a pass with the whole "she was working" excuse, but I don't know any working parent who doesn't still get their kids ready for school or daycare, and Janelle had it easier than most working parents. Her kids were homeschooled, so she didn't even have to drop them off anywhere before heading into work. But hey, why take responsibility when you can just pass it off to someone else, right? Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next video. Take care and much love to you all.